Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. It's in the description below. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Launched in 300 pieces in stainless steel for 2018, this is the Bremont Supermarine Waterman GMT Limited Edition. It's a dive watch, it's a GMT, there's a lot to love, and when you break it down, you're getting tremendous value from this British-based independent. So the Supermarine line, which is named after a manufacturer of initially high-performance seaplanes, it was launched in 2009 to be the Bremont dive watch collection. So this watch is an aggressive 500-meter diver with a helium escape, but it is wearable in spite of its size, 43 millimeters in diameter by 51 millimeters lug-to-lug. Its biggest dimension is its thickness at 16.7 millimeters, and then there's a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. When you throw it on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, and it's a big watch. Even if I pull my camera back a little bit to give you a better sense of scale, it looks large. You can see that it straddles my wrist from side to side. I've got a bit of clearance, but I wouldn't wear this watch on a wrist smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. The challenge is going to be with a cuff, where this watch really doesn't want to play nicely with a tighter cuff or a dress sleeve, but you should be fine with a jacket. This watch is really designed to be worn with a bathing suit and no sleeve, so you get a sense of its intent and purpose. Not just from its size, but from its specification, as there is a lot going on. We'll talk about that in a moment. The strap is thick. Bremont uses a curved spring bar, so you can drill the lugs fairly close to the case without any impediment to the motion of the strap, so that's an advantage. It has a contrasting stitch, which is a nice touch. It's all blue calfskin. You can see on the bottom, it's a more natural colored calfskin, and there's a simple polished and satin finished pin buckle for quick on-the-fly adjustments. I like the elevated bridge over the prongs, because that means the strap sits inside the buckle rather than stacking up underneath it when it's on the wrist. It's a small measure, but a thoughtful one. Now, I talked about hardware. Let's deliver the goods. The case is actually face hardened. It's a little bit like the DiaShield used on Seiko watches. It's a surface hardening of the metal that takes the conventionally 200 to 250 Vickers stainless steel, and it elevates it a little bit closer to 400 in practice. Bremont claims ridiculous numbers over 1,000 Vickers, but the compound of the base metal and the coating on top is about 400 all told, which is still significantly more than standard steel. You can see the mid case has been DLC coated for scratch resistance, and it's also broken out from the shape of the lugs. See how they're physically separate structures? That's one trick Bremont uses to make this really large watch fit more comfortably on a smaller wrist. You can also see that there's a helium escape valve here. So you've got a 500-meter diver, and then you have the helium escape for saturation divers. If you need this, you already know what it does. If you don't know what it does, you don't need it. You can see that the lug shape is actually handsomely sculpted with satin-finished flanks, a little curvature built in. There's some dip and sweep and taper with a flaring bevel that's quite attractive, honestly, at all four corners. There's an off-centered crown, the better to not dig your wrist and make this watch an ambidextrous option. And then we have a bezel, which is a unidirectional rotating dive bezel with a sapphire cap like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. And you can see it's a combination of polished recesses with satin-finished flanks and top. But it's the sapphire cap that makes this truly special. Glossy, gleaming, and deep, it allows the bezel to be fully loomed, and we'll explore what that means in a moment. But I'll demonstrate that the detent, which is 120 clicks, is very solid and reassuring. It feels as good as it sounds. Line up the triangular index with the minute hand, and now you've got a quick 0 to 60 impromptu timing mechanism. So you have the timing mechanism in the bezel, you have that second time zone in 24-hour format, and the ETA 28932 base of this movement is rather significant in its use of a conventional quickset in addition, and I'll show you how this worked, but in addition to a mechanism that allows you to rapidly set the second time zone. On something like a Rolex GMT, you have to whip the local hour hand around to change the date. Here you get a conventional quick set for the date, even as you're able to rapidly and independently correct that second 24-hour time zone. Of course, the watch does feature hacking or stop seconds. You can see that the indices are metallic and applied rather than printed, and there's a 24-hour reference ring outboard to read that second time zone, with a railroad track inboard broken up by indices with a double index up at 12 o'clock and then the index replaced by the aperture, the polished and faceted aperture, I should mention, for the date over at 3 o'clock. The movement is basically an ETA 28932 in chronometer specification. The rotor has been customized by Bremont, but a basic ETA movement is no mean timekeeper, as this is 5-position adjusted and COSC chronometer certified. So you're getting a lot of precision here. Remember, a COSC chronometer is going to be tested over 2 weeks in 5 positions, and the 24-hour deviation, the most it can be off one day, is -4 + 6. Keep that in mind when assessing a movement like this. 42-hour power reserve, automatic winding, 21 joules, stop second, dual time zone, quick set. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. And not only is it water resistant down to 500 meters, but you see this anti-shock symbol on the case back? That means that there are rubber bumpers inside the case, physically separating the movement from the case. So this shock absorbing system makes the watch immensely shock tolerant in addition to water resistant. It is the full technical package. Remember, I mentioned there'd be a lot of value adding features here. You can see exactly what I mean, right down to the attention to detail with that lovely linen pattern over the center dial. They sweated the details on the Supermarine Waterman limited edition. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Bremont Waterman. Note that all 4 hands are loomed, as is the entirety of the dive bezel.